the truth of the matter is, the longer we stay closed, it's not like, we don't have any expenses. We still have to pay rent. We still have, utility bills and this and that. So when it comes down to it, it's, do we just open up or do we just close for good, right? So.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Richmond Hill, Ontario, and I'm at Fitness Connection on Elgin Mills. I have to tell you, it is an excellent gym, great equipment, fantastic staff, and full disclosure, I am a member here myself, and I'm with the co-owner of Fitness Connection, Mike Mak. And really, what we want to talk about today, folks, is the fact that York Region, unlike the City of Toronto and Peel Region, they are not in the gray zone. There is limited opening of certain businesses, including fitness facilities. But you would think that might be a lifeline, but in some respects, it really isn't. For example, this gym, and this is just one studio in this very large fitness club, is limited to only 10 people on the floor at a single time. And Mike, we talked off camera, sometimes with that kind of limitation, clearly for a club that can accommodate well over 10 people, it makes you wonder, does it make sense to open the doors in the morning?
Well, frankly, it doesn't. I mean, we have about over 1,000 members that we want to service. So, only opening for 10 people at a time, really, if you look at, even on an hourly basis, that allows for 170 workouts a day. So, you do the math on that. There's going to be a great percentage of people who are either going to cancel or put their memberships on hold. So, frankly, even with all the, government subsidies, you gotta kind of weigh it. It almost doesn't make sense to be open.
And Mike, what I find staggering is that you're in the gym business. You can have a boutique fitness facility the size of a variety store. You can have a gym the size of a former Canadian Tire store. And yet it's 10 across the board. Why haven't the authorities made the rule based on square footage? So if you're this amount of square footage, it's this number of members. If you're bigger, it's this number. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, and that's something I wonder myself. We have over 20,000 square feet here. So even with the new rules with, 3 meters or 9 feet distancing, I think we can comfortably fit, upwards of 50 people, which we're not. We're sticking to the rules, 10 people. But, in my opinion, yeah, like you said, David, it should be based on square footage. I think it's no different than, what they're doing in, some of these, Costco's or Walmart's, what have you not, right? So.
I'm very glad you brought up Costco. Literally, just down Elgin Mills, at Elgin Mills and Leslie, there was a Costco superstore. Last week, that particular store made the news, Mike, 6 confirmed COVID cases. And yet, was the Costco shut down? No, evidently, the statement was, quote, "Public health authorities are currently conducting their usual case management, contact tracing, and workplace investigation processes," end quote. So 6 confirmed cases there, business as usual. I have the feeling that if you had even one confirmed case here, you might be in for a whole heap of trouble. Why the double standard?
Frankly, I suppose, they're deeming, groceries an essential service. I would argue that, exercise is also essential. It helps to, boost your immune system. If anything, it's helping to fight COVID. Not to mention, the, physical and mental, benefits of exercise, which I think a lot of people are, feeling the effects of not doing that, having been stuck in their homes, for however many months. And, actually, funnily enough, I frequent that Costco myself on a weekly basis. I try to go in the evenings when it's less busy, but even on the non-peak hours, it's still kind of like bumper to bumper, so to speak. You got people lining up, and it's a lot of people in there.
We know that over 80% of the deaths in Canada, it's by elderly people in long-term care facilities. In other words, I think that's where we should be directing our resources. The idea of relatively young, relatively healthy people coming into a gym, contracting the virus, and then dying. Well, you quoted the stat yourself. It's not even a percent of a percent.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with that. I think efforts and resources should definitely be put towards, where, deaths and, these cases are happening, like long-term care homes. Definitely, that's where, they should be, putting all their efforts. And frankly here, everyone, like I said, we're following the rules. Everyone's masked. We're not exercising. We also use a check-in system, right? So contact tracing is incredible. We have people signing through the app when they leave. We know exactly, we have a timestamp of when they're in and when they're out. So, and frankly, we've been open for a few months now, minus with a month closure in between. I haven't had one case reported to me by public health since we reopened. So personally, I think it's pretty safe.
And yet you've had Bylaw come in basically to snoop around, spy on you. I don't know, look for any little thing perhaps to give you a closure order. I mean, what's going on there?
So I have had several Bylaw officers come in, and God bless these people. They're kind of doing their jobs. So what they tell me is that they've someone has reported that we're breaking the rules. So they come in. They count how many patrons are working out. They want to make sure, everybody's wearing masks and this and that. And then, frankly, I said, while we enforce the rules, we can't be holding everyone's hand. Like if somebody forgets to, I don't know, put it on walking from here to here, yeah, we remind them. But, ultimately it's up to each person. It's their responsibility to, follow the rules. And anyway, they kind of just politely said that, if we come back and rules are broken, we can be like, we hit you with a fine, and then the next time it's a bigger fine, and then ultimately we can close you down.
And what I find sad about what you just said, Mike, these are people phoning Bylaw. I call them the COVID Karens. It's almost something out of 1984 where you have children ratting out their parents for any kind of perceived violation. And I mean, you're just trying to, earn a living here. You're providing a service, a much wanted and desired service for your members. I know firsthand you're following all the rules. This is the cleanest gym I've ever seen in my life. I don't know, what is motivating people to rat you out when there's nothing to rat out in the first place?
I mean, I suppose these people, who are, calling in, making these complaints about, people breaking the rules, in my opinion, it's got to be people, these are probably the same people who have, stayed home since March, and these are the big advocates of, stop the spread, and, which, I agree with. I mean, I don't want this virus to spread any more than anyone else. However, I would argue that, the benefits of, health and fitness with that low transmission rate of 0.01 outweighs the potential, virus risks, so to speak.
I totally agree. And one last question, Mike. I know you're following the rules, but do you ever get the inkling to do an Adam Skelly, Mr. Skelly, of course, the owner of Adamson Barbecue? That was the biggest story in Toronto, maybe in Canada last week, when he staged the Great Canadian Barbecue Rebellion. Of course, the authorities shut him down. I mean, 100 police officers, the mounted unit being brought in. I personally think this was Mayor Tory sending a message to anyone else who might be having any thoughts of having the temerity to open up, that if you dare to do so, this is what's going to happen. But have you and your business partner ever considered, the heck with this, we're being handcuffed, we're being constrained from making a living, we have so many members that want us to open. Have you considered going down that road?
Truthfully, it isn't something that we haven't considered. I mean, we do have two clubs. So our other club is, shut down right now. It's in Toronto, so it's in the gray zone. They say it's 28 days, but let's see how long this thing plays out. Because the truth of the matter is, the longer we stay closed, it's not like we don't have any expenses. We still have to pay rent. We still have utility bills and this and that. So when it comes down to it, it's, do we just open up or do we just close for good, right? So definitely something that we considered. I mean, On that note, I would like to challenge the government on stepping up with these subsidies, because even with this top up at 90%, I don't know where they expect these business owners to find the extra 10% when they're not getting any income coming in month to month. Not to mention, the 4 months in the summer that we were closed, and for us personally, we've lost over hundreds of thousands of dollars already. So I mean, it's definitely something considered. Absolutely.
Well, Mike, I hope you weather this storm. I hope government sees the folly of these crazy restrictions. And if you do choose to open, don't forget, we have the iwillopen.com portal. We would love to tell your story. And in the meantime, thank you so much for making time to talk to me today.
Great. Thank you, David. Thank you for listening.
And there you have it, folks. I mean, we are told constantly this year, we are all in this together. Clearly, that's not the case. That, I think, that phrase has now superseded "the check is in the mail" as the greatest lie ever uttered, because in the public sector, politicians, bureaucrats, there hasn't been a single layoff, a single pay cut, and yet you have an entrepreneur in the private sector. Government says we're throwing you a lifeline to open on such a limited basis. You have to wonder if that lifeline is really an anchor in disguise. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Folks, are you sick and tired of the government shutting down your business with draconian rules? Well, if you plan to open your business, much like Adam Skelly of Adamson Barbecue did the other day, we want to hear your story. Please go to iwillopen.com. That's iwillopen.com. Tell us what you plan to do. I'll pay a personal visit to you and make sure we get your story out there.